Good evening, I'm Michael Williams.
And I'm Kelly Dunn. It was the perfect storm. Easy money and speculation. Banks, realtors, and buyers who looked the other way until it was too late.
And tonight, some 6 years after the housing crisis began, we continue to pick through the aftermath. Virtually no neighborhood in the Palm Beaches and Treasure Coast went unaffected by falling home prices and ongoing foreclosures.
The crisis and the recovery are part of our year-long effort at WPTV that we call Impact 5, an effort to uncover the problems and help find solutions.
And as bleak as the picture has been, and for many it is still so, in some places we're beginning to see those signs of cautious optimism.
Flamingo Park is not an oasis untouched by foreclosures during our housing bust. Scarcely any neighborhood is. But George Cornell hopes to profit from the aftermath of the crisis. Many do.
We got this out of a foreclosure several years ago for $150,000. We put a few $100,000 into it, renovated it, soup to nuts, and we absolutely love it. We've had several bites on it so far.
And Cornell hopes to sell this home for more than $500,000, less than it fetched in the boom times, but a handsome turnaround. Few of us are in such a position. Most of us, though, might take some heart from Sherry Olafson's outlook. The real estate attorney is also author of Foreclosure Nation, Mortgaging the American Dream.
I think 2012 will be the worst year. We'll see prices go down. 2013, things will start turning around. But, you know, the thing is that there are still so many wild cards.
Foreclosure backlogs, a still shaky economy, and much more. But for all of that,
we will also recover a lot quicker than the rest of the country because we're Florida, because the foreigners want to be here, retirees want to be here.
Jump-starting the economy, experts argue, also means diversifying that economy over the long haul. Paul Baltrin heads homeowner assistance for the Paul Krasker law firm.
We need more economic possibilities. So much of our market is tied to real estate.
In the short term, there is pressure for far better coordination of assistance programs for homeowners who want to stay in their homes.
There's a lot of money that's sitting on the sidelines. There are a lot of people that have tried to seek help from their bank.
And there are calls for programs to be tailor-made for the Florida market.
There are no programs, there have never been programs to help for income properties, to help for second homes. That's one of the problems we've had here in Florida because so many of our foreclosures were not primary residences.
All of those issues and many more are at the heart of our year-long Impact 5 investigation, a community-wide sustained look at how all of us together can work to emerge from the housing crisis. Kelly?
There are a lot of terms being used these days, some of which you may have heard but aren't quite sure what they mean. For instance, short sale. It's one option for a homeowner who wants to avoid foreclosure. Basically, the homeowner finds a new buyer for their home and the bank agrees to it. The bank will make sure it's getting the fair market value for the house, but in general, it agrees to take a payoff of less than what is owed. There are several upsides to a short sale. For the homeowner, if it happens on a first mortgage, he or she can often repair their credit more quickly. A short sale also allows the bank to recover more assets than on a foreclosure because it doesn't take as long. There will also not be as many delinquent taxes and HOA fees, and the house is generally in better condition because it has people living in it rather than sitting empty for a prolonged period of time. That brings us to another term, loan modification. As it implies, it means modifying the loan you have to make it more affordable. It's a good option for a homeowner who wants to stay in his home and avoid foreclosure. The modification can mean getting a reduced interest rate, extending the length of a mortgage to make payments more affordable, or possibly changing the principal balance. It's whatever the bank is willing to change, and it could impact you in the long term, since sometimes the banks want you to pay back the initial investment plus some.
Even if you're not having trouble making your mortgage payment or rent, you may well be affected by the real estate market. Almost all of us are, perhaps in ways you haven't even considered. It is turning neighborhood economics upside down in many cases. Some homeowners are paying their bills. Their neighbors, though, may not be. However, both may end up enjoying the same benefits in that particular neighborhood. It's a situation some homeowners and homeowners associations are arguing more loudly than ever is not fair. News Channel 5's Dan Corcoran explains.
They are decent investments.
Paul Massey is HOA president at Convention Center Townhomes in downtown West Palm Beach. 8 homeowners here, he says, are in the midst of the foreclosure or short sale process. All 8 have thousands of dollars in HOA fees that are long overdue.
They're using all the facilities, the pool, we're cutting their lawn, and they're not paying or contributing their fair share. It makes for some friction in the neighborhood.
And in this 41-unit development, between legal fees and those not paying their HOA fees, this association says it's out more than $50,000.
Why can someone stay for 4 years without paying?
Yeah, a lot of these folks know all the tricks in the book, so there's plenty of stall tactics they put in place.
That's where attorney Scott Wortman comes in, representing nearly 24 HOA and condo associations in Palm Beach County.
The associations themselves are very much a victim of the mortgage foreclosure crisis.
For smaller HOAs, legal action can be costly in time and money, often with the financial burden falling on residents who do pay their HOA fees. Housing expert Paul Baltrin.
People still just don't have the desire to live in that property, or there's other communities where the HOA is well maintained and they would rather live in those communities.
With fewer dollars in HOA reserves, Baltrin says services like landscaping, security, extermination can be cut back, leading to additional vacancies, even fewer payments to the HOA, and perhaps dropping property values.
They're just stuck.
Stuck for now. The foreclosures, the short sales, and those people who aren't paying the HOA fees that they signed up for. Sinclair wants all of it, moving out of his neighborhood soon.
If it doesn't get better, then it's not going to be very good for anybody.
Dan Corcoran, WPTV News Channel 5.
When the experts turn to an expert on home prices and the housing market, they turn to this man often, Vice President of Bankrate.com, Greg McBride. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Michael.
Give us a sense of the housing landscape right now and going forward as you see it.
Well, from a home price standpoint, I think we're still kind of groping for that bottom. That's not to say home prices are going to go up anytime soon, but the worst is clearly behind us. And we are seeing some positive indications. Employment's picking up. And ultimately, I think that's going to bode well. Valuations are very attractive, too. And I think that's going to help the market over time.
What will keep the downward pressure on home prices for the foreseeable future? And by that, what, next year, 2, 3?
Yeah, the next 2, 3 years. And I think the biggest impact there, Michael, is just the glut of foreclosed properties that will eventually make their way to market that are still in the pipeline at some stage of foreclosure right now.
We had the robo-signing crisis, the foreclosure crisis. Many experts say we're starting to get a handle on that. But because of that, we may see more foreclosures come online. Do you see that in the next 6 months to a year?
Yeah, absolutely. We're starting to see that already. I think that's going to continue over the next 12 to 18 months just because there is such a backlog. I mean, think of it this way. It's like blocking off the entrance ramp to I-95. You know, all the cars pile up on the entrance ramp, and then as soon as you open it up, now you've got a lot of traffic coming onto the interstate.
Here's the number one thing I imagine you hear, I certainly do from viewers. They say, listen, I'd like to be able to buy. I'd like to be able to refinance so I can make that mortgage more affordable. But whenever I go to a bank, they're not giving me the help I need or saying I have to jump through so many qualification hoops I can't qualify. How big a problem? What's your advice to somebody who says that?
Well, on the refinancing end, there's some good news here. A government program just went operational within the last couple of weeks to facilitate refinancing for people that are deeply upside down. In other words, they owe a lot more than the home is worth. Right. That's really going to be impactful here in South Florida. For people that are buying homes, the luxury you have is you have time. Home prices aren't going to run away from you. If you need to take more time to save up the money, to pay down debt, to improve your credit score in order to put your best foot forward, we'll take the time and do so.
There's a lot of debate still about people who say I'm going to hang in and pay the loan, and others who say I'm going to walk away. What do you say to people when they're sitting there on that financial precipice? And I know it's very individualized, but there's become a feeling, some argue, that people feel they can walk away without consequence. What sense do you want to give people?
Well, look, housing is a long-term investment. I mean, people, if you can afford the monthly payments, you're just because you're upside down, it's not a catalyst for default. I mean, if that were the case, people would be parking new cars by the side of the road every day because they realize how far upside down they are, and it's going to take them years to get right-sized. The benefit of the house, whether you're upside down or not, is that it's a roof over your head. You get to live there. You keep making the payments, you get to keep the house.
Will we see these historically low mortgage rates for how much longer in your estimation?
Yeah, I think we're going to see very low mortgage rates through the balance of the year. I mean, the economy's doing better, but it's not doing so great that mortgage rates are any threat to move above 5% anytime soon. I think we're going to have rates in the floors throughout 2012.
Greg McBride, VP of Bankrate.com. As always, thanks for your expertise and insight. We appreciate it. Kelly?
If you look around, you may find many of them, so-called ghost communities, neighborhoods that were started and never finished. What the near future may hold for them.
More people across the country are choosing to rent. Coming up, we take a look at what's happening at your front door.
Ghost developments. They are very much a part of our landscape in the Palm Beaches and the Treasure Coast nowadays. Scary reminders of a housing crash that drained communities of money, energy, and hope. Our year-long Impact 5 initiative focuses on the problem tonight and the fight to bring new life to neighborhoods. News Channel 5's Ricky Klaus has more from Stewart.
This is Victoria Park in Port St. Lucie's Tradition Development. The wind carries no echoes here. There are no sounds of children playing, of adults talking or working to maintain community pride. There are no homes at all in Victoria Park. It's a ghost development, a place that never got off the ground.
The economy collapsed and it was left in this condition.
This neighborhood is one of many across our region and state that went bust when the housing bubble burst. This is another, Tesoro Preserve in Port St. Lucie.
It's quiet. You know, there's a lot of room to roam.
440 lots here, but only 14 homes were built. The developer here says these Mediterranean-style houses once had price tags of almost $2 million. Today, they go for about a quarter of that price. Frank Luciano is 63. He bought one 2 years ago.
I was out of work, so you know, we figured to retire. We came up to Port St. Lucie because it's a beautiful area up here.
Luciano used to have his own construction company. The housing crash ended that, and he left his much larger home in Broward County to start over here.
And the neighborhood needs life. It's a beautiful neighborhood.
Luciano's neighbor, Joseph Visconti, is also the developer here. He's trying to carve out a new future for a place that seemed to be at a dead end 2 years ago.
We had to go to the banks and buy the mortgages, do the foreclosures, you know, pay off the liens.
Visconti is hopeful now. He says he's selling lots, building a clubhouse, tennis courts, a pool.
We have a long way to go, but it's starting and it's working.
And Port St. Lucie leaders are encouraging the efforts.
Throughout the city, we are working with some developers to try to find ways to resolve these empty properties.
An ongoing fight goes on to bring ghost developments back to life. Ricky Klaus, WPTV News Channel 5.
Buying a home has long been considered the American dream, but for many, that's not the case anymore. The real estate research company Zillow reports that as home values have dipped, the rental market has boomed across the country and here in South Florida, making renting for many a far more attractive option. News Channel 5's Ashley Walters looks at the changing trends.
For Rent Florida Realty,
good morning, how are you?
The business of rentals keeps the staff buzzing.
What about the appliances?
The company manages 440 properties. Usually about 8 to 10% of their properties are vacant.
D.
Right now, it's only 5.
Years ago, we wouldn't take anyone with a foreclosure because that was just part of our criteria. I mean, but now there's so many people in foreclosure that are homeowners that need a place to live, and they've been excellent tenants of ours.
President Steve Terranoni says foreclosures are helping the rental industry.
Maybe 20% of our tenants that come into our office here that rent through us, so we're former homeowners.
What you pay for rent has gone up during the last 12 months. So has the demand and so has the supply. Steve says as property values have bottomed out, investors have come to town looking to buy and rent out properties.
They're not just buying 1 or 2. They're buying anywhere from 4 to 10 units.
The situation has opened the door for residential communities as well. Communities like this one have seen their occupancy rates rise.
Right now, we are 97, almost 98% occupied.
Of the 306 units at Tennis Towers, only 7 are open, says Assistant Property Manager Ashley Lewis.
We have a lot of people that, continuously tell us we want to be here for 5-6 years, and something long term versus something where they want to move in for a year and then purchase their own property.
The rental business has unpacked its boxes and it's staying for a while. In Palm Beach County, Ashley Walters, WPTV News Channel 5.
So are things improving for homeowners?
Up next on our Impact 5 special report, we continue to look at that question with one woman who specializes in helping local residents hang on. And she says she's busier than ever.
If your credit score has suffered because of a foreclosure or short sale, straight ahead we'll tell you about how you can get back on the road to repair it.
Every foreclosed home in South Florida means another credit score is ruined. Only time can naturally repair your credit score. It takes 7 years. News Channel 5's Marissa Bagg continues our Impact 5 initiative on the housing crisis by showing us ways to give your score a little boost.
Refinancing his home won't be as easy as Ken Bender once thought. Filling out the paperwork, the father of two realized his credit score dropped.
You know, it's a lot of uncertainty more about, about the future and where I stand, where I thought I was and where I am now is two different things.
Turns out it was an unpaid bill. Thousands of South Floridians have it much worse, facing tumbling credit scores because of short sales and foreclosures.
Your credit score can go from a 700 down to a 400 pretty quickly.
So how do you fix that? There's no silver bullet solution, but there are things you can do. First, look for mistakes on your credit report. Then cancel any cards you don't need and start paying off balances. Also, expand your borrowing power by increasing your credit limit, but don't spend it.
It increases your credit score because it shows that you have excess capacity, that you're not maxed out, and that you're probably responsible because even though you have a $20,000 limit, you borrow and you utilize $10,000 or $15,000 of it.
If you're starting at the bottom and no one will give you a credit card, open a secured card, a store or gas card. Pay it on time.
That is a credit card. That's a form of credit, and by building up a good payment track record with that secured credit card, that will help your credit also.
Back at Bender's house,
There's a sizable savings to do to refinance on it. I mean, it's basically like saving $40,000 in interest.
he's hoping a history of paying on time will pay off with a lower interest rate on his mortgage. In Boca Raton, Marissa Bagg, WPTV News Channel 5.
And we're joined now by Takesha Miles with the Legal Aid Society of Palm Beach County. Thank you so much for being with us. You deal specifically with people who are in foreclosure, have been served foreclosure papers. Give us a sense of what you're seeing in terms of the problems right now for your clientele once they are served with those foreclosure papers and the advice you're giving them.
Well, we're trying to advise everyone who's been served with a foreclosure lawsuit to file a response. The summons requires you to file a response within 20 calendar days. And we want to make sure that everyone hears that message and anyone that comes in our office files some response, because we don't want anyone losing their home by default just because they didn't know what to do or didn't know how to respond to the lawsuit.
How many are losing their homes in foreclosure because they simply don't have the money, or they decided not to pay because they're underwater and suddenly found themselves in foreclosure for that reason? Any way to give a gauge?
I would say it's about half. You know, there are a lot of people who just can't afford it, and we want to make sure that they understand it and they get a graceful exit out the property. You know, there's so many resources and alternatives available to foreclosure that we can...
Among the chief ones?
Loan modification, short sales, and deed in lieu of foreclosures.
Right.
So it's an opportunity for them to get out of the house without having to have a big judgment or deficiency judgment wavering over their head.
Are enough people taking advantage of that?
Not enough. We want to encourage more people, and the federal government has put new programs in place that are supposed to work quicker. You know, for those who have tried them and thought that they took too long for a short sale, there are programs now in place to encourage more banks to approve short sales.
There was the recent huge $25 billion settlement with the nation's biggest banks. Do you think it's going far enough?
It's a good start. It's a good start, and it's going to give some relief to a lot of homeowners.
It's intended to do that and give that relief. What do you say that people say, I could pay, I just don't want to? And you said that's about half of your clientele.
Well, the people who call our office who we don't help, individuals who don't.
That's what you say, okay.
We don't help those who don't want to save the house. But
they're reasonably able to, but have elected not to.
Correct.
Where do you see so much talk now about, oh, the economy's getting better? We see a light at the end of the tunnel, some optimism. Your bottom line sense here?
We still have a lot of people who are in the pipeline to be foreclosed, and we also have a lot of people who are still, their cases are pending. Statewide, there are about 330,000 cases pending in our court system, and locally, over 30,000. So although there's a backlog of individuals who are in default and delinquent with their mortgage who are going to be served soon, we still have a lot of people in the system who have to find an exit out of the system, either through a sale or some sort of alternative foreclosure.
Bottom line, seek the help, know your options, seek that legal help.
Absolutely.
Takesha Miles, thank you for sharing your time with us and your expertise. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you.
Kelly?
She was a victim herself and didn't take no for an answer. How a local woman uncovered the nationwide problem of robo-signings and won big as a result. Her story in just a moment.
She blew the whistle, and her revelations have earned her $18 million as part of a nationwide settlement.
A Palm Beach Gardens woman made headlines when she shed light on robo-signings, a bank practice aimed at pushing homeowners quickly through foreclosure proceedings. News Channel 5's Evan Axelbank with her story.
About the only thing that interrupts Lynn Simoniak from researching mortgage fraud is the phone. A few days ago, her lawyer was on the other end. The Palm Beach Gardens mother of three had won an $18 million settlement from mortgage lenders.
I actually said a prayer of thanksgiving first.
Thanks after a long battle. Simoniak got her foreclosure papers in 2008 after her mortgage payment went up.
I went to the county courthouse to look up the documents. I found there was a difference in the documents that were on file and the documents that had been served on me.
Simoniak admits that she became obsessed. She spent up to 90 hours a week compiling paperwork for every mortgage in Palm Beach County filed by a now defunct company that processed her foreclosure.
There were at least 12 very distinct versions of the Linda Green signature.
It turns out she discovered robo-signing, a practice in which she says many lenders assigned low-level employees to sign an easy-to-spell name on a never-ending stream of foreclosure documents. That paperwork, Simoniak says, was used to dupe the federal government into paying the banks their insurance money. It also forced many people out of their homes before they could contest their claim. She sued the banks for fraud.
They would submit these documents to HUD in order to get their payments back faster from HUD.
Simoniak is still fighting her foreclosure, but plans to use part of the $18 million settlement to buy a new home outright. She also promises to donate a portion to charity.
My dad was a Marine. Tried to make a commitment early on in this that I would fight as hard for my country as my father did.
Evan Axelbank, WPTV, News Channel 5.
Lynn Simoniak plans to release a list of all the homeowners in Palm Beach County who have a mortgage that was processed by the now defunct company that she suspects of forging her foreclosure documents. And she says every homeowner deserves to know whether their chain of title is compromised.
Of course, the events leading to the foreclosure crisis took decades to build, and going back to a new normal will take years more. However, we hope you will count on News Channel 5 over the coming years. We continue our Impact 5 initiative in an effort to keep you informed and help you through the housing crisis.
And if you have a story idea or a suggestion related to this, you can submit any story ideas by clicking on the Impact 5 tab in the About section of WPTV.com. We have also amassed a large collection of stories related to foreclosures and housing there as well. Our thanks for joining us for this Impact 5 special tonight.